So here we are looking at the 2019 Burton Flight Attendant, and it's just been a great board. We've loved this over the years, owned it in the past. I own it now. Yeah, I owned the first year it came out. I owned it the first year it came out. And I would say really the only difference between then and now that I can tell is the weight recommendations, and there are different sizes available. There's more, not different sizes, there's more sizes available. But overall, it still has that great personality. And it's been a few years and we just got on it, you know, last year at the last year for a little bit, and I just forgot how much fun it is. And it's got this really cool kind of like two-world kind of feel. It's definitely a tapered directional board with some early rise in the nose, bigger nose than tail. It definitely says I'm more directional, but the balanced free ride geometry side cut really gives this much more of a double ender feel. So it gives this a much better all mountain aftertaste. So while it's truly a free ride board, it's definitely great for those who like to center up, ride switch sometimes, really carved groomers, but still want that really amazing turn when you're good foot forward, and you want one board. So other than, you know, maybe not the best edge hold compared to a lot of its peers in harder to icy snow, it still can handle pretty well in most conditions you want to ride. Carves like a champ, and then floats really well for what it is in powder. So let's get into it. You can see this healthy bow of camber. It just has this, just like, there's so much camber underfoot. And then it leads into just a little bit of early rise before this nose. I like the nose that kind of kinks up a little less, you know. I'd like it to, it's kind of like this, and I'd kind of like it to be like that. But I can't argue with how it floats in powder. It floats really well, and I've ridden this on some pretty deep, thick Sierra days. So it does its job, and it's a great, that's what makes it such a good one board quiver when set all the way back and, you know, and riding powder. It's not like a camber board. This early rise along with this taper and everything comes into play. And what's interesting about this taper, you don't really feel it as much, and it's only 10 mil, but if you compare this to, you know, a lot of its peers, like even the Molaire, the new Molaire, same rider, two different boards. The Molaire, I think, has less taper, but it's much more surfy, much more washy off the tail if you don't put your weight off the back foot more, or on the back foot. You compare this to, let's say, the Rossi XV, you know, it's something like 8 mil of taper, a little less taper than this. This feels much more double ender. It feels like you can center yourself better. You compare this to even the Yes Pick Your Line, another good ride favorite, a super fun board in its own way, but it's got only like 6 mil of taper, maybe 6 and some change, I believe. And it feels much more tapered and surfy than this does. So this is why I say it kind of borderlines on the all mountain side. And there's many others that you can reference, but it feels much more double ender. It's kind of like a narrow Karua Auto. But when you get to setback on board versus side cut, you're looking at 35 mil on side cut, but back on board, you're looking at, where is my tape measure? Oh, there it is on my desk. But you're looking at, on reference stance, 22, which is great for me lately. I've been riding a little more narrow, not too narrow, but a little bit. And then 23 all the way back on board. And, you know, that's within these recommended notches. You could probably go a little further back if you don't have EST bindings, and you get either reflex bindings or standard bindings, because the inserts go in like this, where with EST they're much wider, so there's less to move. But you could do that if you want to. I never do. I stay with what Burton recommends. But you do have that option if you're one of those people that likes to be more set back on board. You could get a lot further back on board if you wanted to with you know, those bindings. But you're looking at just about 22.5 to the last notch, and just about 16.25 with the last notch. So you're looking at, and I'm just going to do this right here, 22.5 minus 16.25. Oops. You're looking at 6.25 back on board, which is good. It's not great, it's not amazing, but it's not bad at all. And that combined with the taper and the extra float in the nose, the extra rocker, and all that set back on board, it's got really good directional float for what it is. It's not going to slay it. We've found that the skeleton key was a little better, you know, but even the stun gun is a little better than that. But the skeleton key and stun gun are much closer together in terms of directional float, where this is more just kind of like a, you know, that one board quiver kind of thing. It does that double ender thing really well. So you're sacrificing a little bit of powder, but not a lot. And then take a look at this base. It's just nice, clear, really easily made. This is made in Austria, by the way. It's clear. If you have clear PTEX and a PTEX gun, you're good. You can repair this base without that nasty burnt clear PTEX dripping in there, and it can look almost new. So that's cool. I love a base like this. These bases are fast, but it's not too wax hungry. So you don't have to be just super vigilant about your waxing. So all in all, the Burton Flight Attendant is such a fun board. It's such a recommendable board for all of those looking for kind of that favor directional riding a little bit more, but want that one board quiver, and want to be able to have the ability to turn with more weight on their back foot, or ride it a little more centered, not perfectly centered with your weight centered, but more so than you could with most free ride boards with this kind of taper. So, you know, super fun ride.